Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Health Hunters podcast. I'm Roxanne.
And here's Fernando.
So, Fernando, today we'll be talking about herbs.
Yeah, today is going to be like a very interesting episode, and probably going to explain a little bit how this episode is going to work. It's going to be like a monthly episode.
Exactly, yes. Just to learn our Latin here, right?
Yeah, this is the best title for this definitely episode talking about herbs.
So, Fernando, which of the two herbs did you research?
So I picked up like a very interesting herbs, which is very probably easy for our understanding in Latin what the word means. But the name, it will be Ossinium basilicum. So can you guess which plant it is?
Okay, this is easy. At the end, I already said basilicum, so it's basil.
Yeah, basil. Yeah, it's not only is a plant, and we actually use it in many varieties are being used in it. You know what I mean? Like you can use like African blue or black basil, the red Rubin basil or lemon basil. They have like specifically different characteristics in terms of smell and taste, and then use it like in terms of cuisine, for instance.
So you're saying there are like different types of basils?
Yeah, exactly. Then it can be used. It is not only the only one that we can find in a supermarket.
I would say, I only know the basil from the Italian cuisine,
Of course, it will be explored like in the Mediterranean area, but they were use it like from different types of way. For instance, in Italian cuisine, they use it like fresh basil, but in Asian, like China, for instance, or Taiwan, they use it. They deep fry it. You know what I mean? Like or they even in China they cook it, so this is boiled. So we kind of preserve like all the flavors on it in a different way.
I didn't know this. Yeah. That's cool. How does it grow, this basil?
Yeah, that's the thing that I actually, when I was looking, I was like, I really want to grow basil after such a bad investigation. I do grow basil, but mainly for the seeds, because other applications you can use on basil is using the seeds, like they have a very good application in the cuisine. But basil is like not a very in a very tall plant. Actually, it grows like around half a meter, and it's like have like a very the description of the leaves as they are very rich green with some white flowers where you produce the seeds. Yeah, basil is basically a plant who doesn't really survive like the full year. I mean, it can survive the full year, but eventually die because it's very sensitive to the cold.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a certain lifespan, you say.
Yeah.
Okay. Which would be the ideal season to plant basil then?
Of course, all the plants, they're supposed to do it like in the same springtime is the time that you start to do it with basil. I think like other plants you can do in different, you have to do different things for making the seeds pop up. But basil is very a very spring, summer, autumn, and then produce seeds and eventually die, yeah.
And how would you describe basil?
Well, describing the how to describe the flavor of basil, I will say probably like kind of a piney, wood, spicy, fresh flavor. I will probably say like very earthy, like fresh, intense flavor to describe. But of course, because of the genetics, different varieties, it can really mimic different other flavors, like because of the compounds that exist naturally on that type of basil. For instance, the holy basil is the most common, and you find it like in supermarkets and so on. But the lemon basil, it's very citrus, of course, things like that. And where actually the basil come from, it is quite important because in a places in the world where it has a lot of altitude, and they also can the UVB light can create more volatile compounds on basil, and make use it for different different applications in it. Like you can find like the best ones are the ones who grows in the mountains, and it has a reason for it. It's just because they are much vulnerable to different types of radiation they get from the sun.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's very
nice.
interesting.
Yeah.
So relating to health, what is beneficial to this?
Well, in terms of health, basil has been used like in many different, civilizations, let's say. One of the things that I was reading about it is like for instance, in Portugal, they have a type of basil. Then they are use it during like summertime, doing like the sand festivals, and exists like a dwarf type of basil that is give it like doing to when a guy gives to a girl. So since it's a plant that doesn't survive for a very long time, the girl have to take care of the basil very carefully, because it's a very sensitive plant, and even is a myth saying that if you smell with your nose the plant eventually die, because it's so sensitive. So you have to smell with your own hands. Now, how this can be related with health, like this means like the plant was so sensitive and so valuable, then people should have one of these plants at home to help like with digestion problems, for instance, and that's why you taking care about that plant, and the woman was taking care about the plant, was giving that plant on a food for the husband because she cares about him. What I mean?
That's so
like,
nice.
Yeah, it's a very nice. It became like the plant of the of the two the couples, like let's say, like for when people were meeting each other. Yeah. It is like a very interesting part of it. Actually, in Portugal, like doing the festival, a sand festival, a religion festival. Sant Antonio is like a saint. Then it really represents like the when a man and a woman they get together, married. Like so, he's a really great representation of it. And doing this festival, so the boy gives to the girl. Dwarf basil.
Oh,
yeah.
Like a small basil.
Well, the leaves are small, but the basil can be actually quite big. You know what I mean? They're like tiny micro leaves. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And basically, they give this with a poem. So it has always like a poem next to it. Yeah. It's very romantic. It became like a romantic herb, and because the herb is so sensitive, it means like if the herb die, it means like the girl didn't like the boy.
Oh man, that's so symbolic.
It is very symbolic because they need like care.
Yeah, and this poem, is this like a love letter or something?
It could be a love letter, but nowadays you buy just poems like already written. But it can represent a lot of things. It could be a love thing. It could be like a friendship. You know what I mean? Like kind of thing. But it's a very beautiful one. It survived over like a year, but eventually the plant die. They are very quite nice. And that meat, then they say if you smell the plant die, but it's actually a meat because it's just because people like it has such a very interesting aroma, very quite nice, volatile, smells. Then people constantly touch the plant, and because it's such a small, fragile plant, eventually die. Yeah.
And does this celebration still happen?
Yeah,
every single year.
Every single year you can find it's like very funny, like actually to go to the streets in Portugal and see people celebrating that. Sometimes they make a representation of actually the plant through paper, or it represents a lot doing this festive.
When does this happen?
Well, this happen normally like in the beginning of June to July and August are normally festivals related to scents, in Portugal, and they celebrate like doing this part is spring, like from spring to the beginning summer. Yeah,
very nice. Very cool. And anything else like for medical applications?
Well, exists something then it's very interesting about this plant. Then we already using like some of these compounds naturally. They extracted from this plant all the cosmetics, all cleaning products somehow contain some of these ingredients, like one of these compounds then probably is not Latin, but I will try to say the word strangol. It's the name of this chemical compound. Then he has a very it's a compound and it can be used for a potential toxic for mosquitoes, so it can be used for countries where they have big problems with insects such as South America, and who can have spraying diseases. So of course it could be natural products like basil and be making a paste and applying on the skin, for instance, to create a barrier against mosquitoes. Other thing that I also noticed in for instance in France, they're called the herbe royale, was like the royal herb, because we were using the plant for making perfumes. So it was such a high value, you know what I mean?
Oh, I have a question. Do you use only the leaf parts, or can you also use the stems?
Well, I think like the stem, I don't think so you use like the stems. I think you mainly use the leaves and the seeds.
Yeah.
But I think like for industrial purpose, they use the full plant. Yeah, the full herb. I think the industrial part of it, they extract, because it's the essential compounds are found everywhere on the plant, so it's not only in the leaves.
So even also in the stems.
Yeah, in the stems you can find like probably in low concentrations, but in terms of industrial, every single bit will be probably worth it. So they probably use the full plant.
And you mean by industrial like perfume or cleaning things or?
Yes, yeah, cosmetics. Yes, yeah, definitely. That's the type of things that you can find in like in that parts of it you can use it. But in kitchens, it's mainly used like the herbs and the seeds. Yeah.
So did you find any contraindications?
Yeah, one of the contraindications of using basil is actually being a diuretic. So it's contraindicated for pregnant women who have they already have to go to the toilet for two people. So basil is probably not indicated for that reasons. Also, it has a property that is lower the sugar in the blood, so it can create a hypoglycemia. But good news for people who have diabetes, because can eat as much pizza as they want.
Ooh, hey.
Well,
that's a good one.
It's a good one. Or no, probably not pizza, but probably like pesto. Okay. Yeah, pesto probably is the one that you can feel free then to do something healthy by eating pesto.
Okay, I think this is enough for basil.
Basil is a very interesting plant, and it's a very
nice one. It's also your favorite, right?
I mean, it's interesting to making perfumes out from a plant, an herb, then you actually eat it. It's just like I smell like lasagna. Yeah. That's nice. No, Roxanne, you actually also went to an adventure in two herbs, right?
Yes. So can you guess this one? Lamiaceae.
Lamiaceae. It's lavender? No. A ginger? No, it's not ginger. What is it then?
It's mint.
Mint. What? Say it again.
Excuse my Latin. It's Oh gosh, wait again. So it's Lamiaceae.
Lamiaceae. Wow, such a interesting.
It sounds like a poetic word, right? Yeah. So my findings for this herb. So there are similar like in basil. There are 3 different types of species. So it's spearmint, peppermint, and pennyroyal. Those are the different types of mints. And I just dive deep into the common one, which is spearmint, Mentha viridis.
Mentha viridis, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I mean, mint, it's also like a plant who's being used like for many, many things, right? Like such as the kitchen, also chocolates, right? Are being, also making that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great combination, right?
Yeah.
Chocolate and mint.
Indeed. And how do you describe mint? How do you describe the plant for people who've never seen a herb before?
The leaves has these pointy
ends.
ends.
Yeah, gotcha.
And the texture has this rough.
Yeah, it's very rough. It has like a lot of wrinkles also.
Wrinkles, that's
like
the word. Yes, wrinkles.
Yeah.
So it's originally a native of the Mediterranean region.
Oh wow, I would never guess that. Oh, the cultivation of it?
It's really a fast plant that you could just grow easily in your kitchen. I do remember also when I had a garden that, mint is actually the enemy because it grows so fast in the garden that it's almost, you can say it's almost a weed.
A weed plant, it grows like...
Because it grows too fast.
Oh, all right. They take over probably...
Take over the area and stuff.
Well, yeah, that's good news for people who really like tea mint.
Yeah.
And how do you describe the flavors and then the taste and the smells? Do you have any?
No, it is not citrus, lemon, orange.
No, you don't think so?
No.
The mint is
citrus?
Yeah, you don't
No.
describe it in citrus, no.
Maybe the aftertaste or the after it's boiled.
The intensity of a citrus.
Yeah, if you describe it that way, then I would say closely, citrus, like the intensity of the smell, the mint, Okay, and then the closest I would say citrus.
Mint can be apply in different, it can be his own flavor. I will say it. You cannot really compare to anything besides of being his own flavor. Yeah, that's probably one of the things about it. Did you find any fun facts about how?
Let's go back in the Romans.
Romans, it gets bolder back there, the history of mint.
Yeah. The Romans believed eating mint would increase intelligence. The scent of mint was also supposed to stop a person from losing his temper, and royal ambassadors carried mint sprigs in their pockets.
Really, for because intelligence was something that was so important for people.
Apparently,
during the Romans, so of course they want to keep.
I mean, this could be just a myth or something, but the Romans believed that intelligence.
Given all the, since the Romans were trying new things, different stuff, so keeping a mint in your pocket probably.
It's kind of also what we do, right? We have a lucky charm or something, you put it in your pocket and then we believe, hey, positive things are happening.
Yeah, and it's probably at the time also was important to have these herbs around because they didn't have anything else. You know what I mean? In terms probably of hygiene also.
Yeah. And it's a great smell.
So do you find also some fun facts about the medical parts of mint?
Yeah, I have a very interesting one. It answers my why. So in the summer, obviously in the hot days, you see people consuming mint and all that stuff.
In drinks and water.
Water. And now I know why. It has this compound called menthol, and what it does, it stimulates coldness receptors in the mucous membrane or skin and creates a sense of cooling.
Oh wow, okay, so that's why the idea of having a freshness is not mint gives that effect on it. Oh okay,
it has that effect
on the membranes. Yeah.
It also helps to open the airway and decreases cough as well. So it's opening.
Yeah, a vasodilated or Okay, makes a lot of sense. Why we most of like products for people who are feeling sick or something like can have like the idea of mint and ice because they have that. Yeah.
I also when I have a cold or something, and then I take a peppermint or something, and then my nose suddenly opens up. It has this methanol.
No, menthol. It is a funny actually compound name because it's but it is actually funny the way you mentioned because it's founded like in many other cosmetics products and cleaning products because of the freshness, the idea of freshness and cleanness on it. Yeah, it's quite interesting to see that in that way. This basically they are very volatile compounds and they bring like this smell on things, but they do have properties as cooling. That's actually quite interesting. But you mentioned it like which now you're saying like the indications of it, but which contraindications actually can have like in health.
So if you have too much of peppermint.
Can you bleed from your nose? If you open like all the capillarities from the nose. Yeah.
Actually, it could damage your kidneys. So if you have a kidney disorder.
Oh, I think I remember also a fun fact. Then it also creates impotence in men.
Really?
Yeah, but I don't know about so much about that part of it.
I didn't go that deep, actually.
No, I actually didn't even try. I don't drink that much of a mint tea. I think it's mainly because I heard somewhere, but I didn't make my own investigation. I will probably have to do this afterwards. But I think it creates like a type of impotence in men, maybe make men too cold for being interested in maybe I don't know, I have to take a look at it. Yeah.
Another thing or story. So another thing is I know in Morocco or after you have eaten dinner, people normally drink mint tea so that your stomach won't get bloated that much.
Oh, okay. It does have a very interesting fact because the cuisine in Morocco it can be quite heavy, right? So
I don't know. I guess it's a culture thing, but then I start to do it as well, and it's really nice actually.
Oh, you do? You drink mint tea?
Sometimes, after dinner.
Yeah.
When I have this bloating feeling.
Yeah.
But normally I don't have that.
Yeah. And you find that useful?
Yeah, it's very nice.
The second herb that I'm going to bring up here called Rosmarino officinalis.
Oh wow, fancy!
Yeah, it's a very fancy name.
Sounds so French. In a way.
Could be. Could be probably, but I hope it's like Latin, but I don't know. Yeah.
That's rosemary.
Rosemary, indeed it is. It's a very interesting plant. It is a very beautiful plant. Actually, back home, we used to have a lot of rosemary in the gardens, because it grows very well in there. Yeah.
So where does this plant cultivated?
Well, rosemary, it is that type of plant. Then you have to be patient to cultivate the plant, because when you grow, you will be very well rewarded. With rosemary, it brings a lot of bees to the fields. You know what I mean? So it pollinates more and more plants. So it's more ordinary plants, and you have flowers. It will be the bees will prefer the rosemary, so they will still look it for that area because they know that plant, it is a very rich plant. So it's quite very well rewarded. Other thing that I also seen it, the word officinalis means this is actually Latin. It means to the used to the mankind, to the human,
Oh.
Yeah, officinalis. So it has a purpose for our daily basis, I'd say. So for the same thing, the way we use it, like for cooking, for essential oils and so on. In cooking, actually, is going very well for with lamb, for instance, like for people who eating meat, using like especially in the end part, if you put it in the oven, in the last minutes, you put like the last 15 minutes, you put like a little bit of a rosemary leaves, and you will the smell of this like of rosemary like being roasted in the oven with lamb. It's amazing.
I love the smell. It's so good. It's also good with potatoes.
Yes, it's a very good essential for potatoes. It works very, very well. It's also used like in teas, but things also like in candles, for instance. People use it like rosemary in candles. Yeah, it's a pretty good one. Yeah,
a very common herb also in cosmetica.
It's true. Like it's very well explored that herb because it has so much beneficials in terms of air conditions.
How would you describe the taste?
I would probably say like it's very floral, like giving like that calm effect of it. Very floral, very very, I would say like it's pine, brings also a little bit of pine on it, remind me a lot of it, the pine and the floral spicy aroma on it, very similar to lavender or rosewood, for instance. Is probably, how do they it's also a unique compound, let's say, like a compound that not unique, but a compound that it can be very well described of its own. You know what I mean? Like aroma, like I'd say, yeah.
Do you have any like a interesting fact?
Yeah, I do, of course, because searching about this, it is a plant that doesn't grow very tall. It grows tall, but in terms of culture, they say the plant cannot grow taller than Jesus Christ.
Oh.
Yeah. So when he reached that height, he started to grow wide instead of growing
the width.
The width is actually growing like that. So it's a quite interesting, like when they mention in terms of culture, then this plant cannot be taller than that, and it actually doesn't really go very tall. It's just like a saying that the rosemary doesn't grow like that tall. It's a way of identified. Of course, it's they use normally the younger parts of the leaves for they have like a more a more rich content of essential oils. It's when the plant is still young, so the younger parts only like is mainly use it. And it's a plant who really likes dry soil and sunny. It's a plant who doesn't really like too much to be watering. And even if it looks like quite sad in the later summer, the plant doesn't really require that much amount of water. So that the only thing is like people just have to be patient when they're growing like the plant. You know what I mean? Like because it's a pretty beautiful plant and it smells quite nice, especially when it's at days that are very high humidity and very warm. These plants, they can release like that amazing aroma that can, if it's outdoor, can really, give that scent to the street. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like
it's so nice.
Yeah, of rosemary. Yeah.
Yeah, and any health benefits?
Well, rosemary, it is actually quite used for many different things, like for instance insomnia, stress, depression, anxiety. This is type of things. Then people use it like in early times, early ages. People using like small pillows. With rosemary, lavender, and a mix of other herbs for that type of conditions in terms of anxiety and so on. So they could go to that sleeping insomnia was also because it brings like that appealing, of sleeping, you know what I mean, like resting and calm. So
Wow, I didn't know that rosemary does that as well. I only knew that about lavender.
Yeah, both of them, they're actually really applied like in that.
Kind of like similar properties.
Yeah, they do.
Say?
Yeah, they have similar properties. Maybe they have their own different, what makes the rosemary and lavender particularly use it, but normally the mix of these two is always being viewed
a common mix.
Yeah, a common mix, like other ones like valerian. Yeah, it's other one that it can be.
Oh yes, for the calming as well, right?
Yeah, you use it normally for sleeping, right? Like
also for sleep. Yeah, for
teas.
sleeping teas. That's the only thing I know. Yeah. And what if you take too much rosemary? What happens?
I honestly don't think so. People can take that much about rosemary.
You never know.
I mean, yes, exactly. But I honestly didn't find so many informations about like the side effects of the consumption of rosemary in very high quantities. But yeah, of course, it does have somehow a level of toxicity. Then you should not be ingesting like essential oils like that, maybe through the skin, but never in high concentrations for sure. Yeah. Yes. I would probably say like diarrhea is one of the things that can happen when the body cannot deal with things.
With anything, I guess.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, or mechanism.
So my next one.
Yes, and tell me, what is your next one?
It's my favorite one. But excuse my Latin again. It's gingiberacea.
Gingiberacea. It is that Latin.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds very ginger, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's one of my favorite herbs.
Yeah, ginger. It's a pretty actually nice.
It's a very common herb as well. Especially in the kitchen.
In the kitchen, yeah. Everybody signs like supermarkets, like ginger everywhere. It's actually very beautiful flower plant. You know what I mean? Like I see the flowers of ginger.
Oh, I haven't seen the flower.
Oh, it is so beautiful. Oh. I actually tried to grow unsuccessfully, so I actually have to try it again, But I think it's like the weather here doesn't really allow us to grow, let's say. Yeah, but I'm seeing pictures and I'm very impressed. Normally we have that root in the supermarkets, like kind of, how do you describe it?
Yeah, I find it still crazy that it's just a root of the plant that we're using, Yeah, it's like this weird, thick, rooty... Yeah.
Yeah, they are quite thick. They can get very...
It can be very thick.
Yeah.
It has these organic shapes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's brown. I mean, if they're like really fresh, then the skin is really light and like young roots.
And when you a tip, like when you go to the supermarket, should you choose like the young ones or the older ones?
I would go for the younger ones, but normally, like in normal supermarkets, you only see the ones with the brown skin. I mean, if you go to like a Turkish store here in Amsterdam, you sometimes find fresh ones.
So you suggest like the fine fresh one if you have a way of choosing.
If you're choosing, I mean, obviously, I think it's with any herbs or any plants. The fresh one, it has this nice, delicate taste, And
in terms of flavors, it's how do you describe actually ginger?
I would describe it as strong, woody smell, like earthy, but also has this spiciness as well to it.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it's quite spicy. I will say like can be quite spicy, like the ginger, because it gets like that irritation in the nose. Let's say like
hot and biting.
Hot and bitter.
Yeah, no, bitter not. No. Would you? No.
Spicy.
Yeah, maybe.
Spicy.
I would go towards more spicy than bitter.
Yeah. How do you actually grow this plant? Because I tried like to grow it up here and it didn't really work.
This plant is cultivated in West Indies, Jamaica, and Africa.
Oh, so it grows like in many different places.
Yeah.
I mean, if you see
hot places, I guess.
Yeah, hot places, which probably would be high humidity, probably. Yeah. Yeah, it is a quite decent one because it grows in places where they use the herb very often.
Yeah.
Right, like it's a very decent one. You probably have something related always with digestion, probably.
Yes,
because it's
that's
always
a good. Yeah, that's one of the benefits of having ginger. It really helps to keep your digestion.
Oh yeah, I mean I can see the digestion power being like used with ginger because if you if you don't have like
and it's also really good if you're nauseous.
Oh, is it for nauseous?
Also, and it reduces cramping. It increases flow of saliva.
But how do you use it? You don't go by the root and.
How do you use it?
Yeah. I mean,
just
only like in tea based.
Yeah, tea is fine, or just also in your food, in your kitchen.
Like by grinding a fresh ginger, or
grinding.
Was our ginger cooking and use it for digestion problems? Yeah. Yeah, I mean it can. Yeah, as you said, like it could be used as for food, right? Like yeah. As people have digestion problems, okay, yeah, I can imagine like the nutritive content of that herb or that root, right?
Yeah,
it's a root.
It's a root. Yeah, keep forgetting it. It's a root.
It's a root. I mean, yeah, it is still part of a very beautiful plant where so like it's so beautiful to see it. Yeah.
So if you take too much of ginger, it can be very sensitive to your stomach.
Yeah, I can see that aggressivity on it. Yeah, people taking shots actually of ginger. I see like now in the supermarkets they have like the small pieces of shots of ginger, and yeah, it can be very upset, like just that small amount to the stomach for people who have ulcers, right?
For that particular reason, is because it's also really good for immune. It boosts your immune system. So these shots are actually really good.
Yeah, they don't
take it.
They don't contain only ginger. They contain like honey, and they contain more other stuff. Then it can be benefits for our lemon, for instance. Yeah.
I normally take just ginger. That's it.
Yeah, I can see that as really stimulate like appetite. As you mentioned, it creates a little bit of saliva and nothing else.
So it helps with your appetite. If you're not really hungry, just take a small piece and then you start eating. Yeah.
Any other fun fact that you found that you can share with the public?
Guess which is the biggest the biggest
producer of ginger
of the country.
The bigger country.
Not the country, of the countries.
Of the bigger. The bigger producer of ginger. I think like the bigger producer of ginger will probably be China or India or Thailand.
You said 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3? So maybe Thailand is not.
No, Thailand not.
It is not Thailand. I mean, South America, they don't grow ginger there, like because it's not necessarily native for there. But you mentioned about Africa being one of the countries that produce Nigeria.
To be specific, I was also surprised.
Producing ginger.
Yeah, Nigeria. So the top one is what you almost India first, then Nigeria, and then China.
Oh wow! I'm actually even more surprised that China is in third place.
I was also surprised. What? Nigeria?
Okay, producing ginger. That's quite nice because we actually consume ginger fairly here in Europe. Let's say, you know what I mean? Like find it like in every supermarket, like big amount of ginger.
I hear also like from my friends who are international, they say this is such a Dutch thing that you. Like in restaurants, you can order ginger fresh tea, which is so Dutch. But for me, it's normal.
Yeah, it's normal.
Like you just cut some ginger pieces and then in a hot water or something.
Yeah. You let it sit probably for 5 minutes or less.
Yeah.
And
But then in China they do it completely differently, or something.
They do different like ways of making tea, or it's just
different way of making tea.
Yeah, you don't do it probably like after meals or something like that, or it's just like
I'm not entirely sure how they make ginger tea, but I can assume that they just first squeeze the juice of the ginger and then put it in water as well, but then not like what the Dutch people do, just cut in fresh ginger pieces and put it in water.
Slightly like with a toothpick probably, and put it like that. And then the mistake that people also do, we're probably going to have to bring like this subject then later on in some episode, then using honey in tea. Like it is such a way that people think they are doing something healthy, but turns out to be something extremely bad for our system. Drinking like hot honey.
So I think we've reached the 4 herbs, right?
Yeah, 4 herbs it is, definitely. So the next month we're going to bring more other 4 herbs to talk about it.
Yeah, to expand our knowledge.
Indeed, to know a little bit more. Yeah.
So Fernando, what was your highlights
on it? Yeah, definitely. I really appreciate like the uses of basil, for instance. The things that I found it about, it can be used for fasting. It very helps like with fasting, basil. The rosemary, the fact it can be used like really for helping with the calming effect. That's like things that I took it out from my herbs. And what you took it out from yours?
Mint. Oh yeah, the why it's a cooling effect. That was really aha moment. And for the ginger, I would say, the biggest produce is in Africa.
Africa, yeah. Okay, that was it.
Yes, our first episode on herbs.
Yeah, the herbology, bring it up here, right?
Yeah, excuse my Latin.
Excuse my Latin, yeah. And in the next 4 weeks we will bring this episode again, talking about like 4 more different herbs. And if you have any questions,
you can contact us on our Instagram, THH, and or through our email, which is thehealthhunterspodcast@gmail.com.
Stay tuned. Bye-bye.